Welcome everyone to another episode of Square Zero. My name is John, and I'm excited to share this video with you today because my guest is someone who shares a lot of. We have a lot of things in common. She is a free diver and an entrepreneur, and in this video, she shares all of the ups and downs that come with quitting your job and becoming an entrepreneur, and especially an entrepreneur during the pandemic. So I'm really excited for this video. I had fun shooting it, and I hope you like it too. Enjoy, everyone. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. This is another episode of Square Zero. This is your host, John, and I have a very special guest today, someone who is pursuing her dreams and serving as an inspiration to me, especially because when her main drive or her main business is actually something that I'm also very passionate about, nature, conservation, and really, I love diving too. So I have here today Gela Petines. Gela, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you spending the time. I know it's very late where you are now, and so it's a guarantee, at least for me, that you inspire at least one person by being on the show, and that's me, by sharing your story. And so I just appreciate that you're here today. So Jella, before we went on record, you were already sharing parts of your story, but why don't we start there? You are the founder, as far as I know, you're the founder of Reef Nomads and Batang VIP. So why don't you start from the beginning and tell us how all of that came to be?
Okay, sige. Thank you so much for the kind words. Sige, I'll begin in college. Okay, so
Mm.
I studied BS Environmental Science in Ateneo. And then at the time, I was actually struggling with my academics kasi I'm one of those people na mahilig mag org work. So I had like 5 orgs, and then I noticed that there wasn't any diving organization. At the time, my thesis was about coral reef communities. So I did scuba diving a lot. I started to pick up a lot of trash, diba? So, you're gonna see all sorts of crap down there. So, merong diapers,
Yeah.
merong like toothpaste tubes and sachets. And then I said, like, why aren't people talking about this? Parang we're the youth, right? How come puro mountains? Kasi I was also a Loyola mountaineer. Parang, bundok, save the trees and ganyan. But nobody wants to save the sea. And majority of the Philippine archipelago is made of marine water. Um, so I said, this is so weird. So I proposed having an organization. So we called it ISDA, Institution ng Skin Divers sa Ateneo. And then at the time it was
It's a
like a
nice
joke.
name.
Parang, ISDA ang
It's
bandot.
catchy. It's catchy.
But it's catchy, yes. At least maalala mo, 'di ba?
Yeah.
So, and then eventually we made it sort of respected naman over time. We created modules for applicants to study, and then it's pretty hard to get in. You have to be really dedicated. So anyway, so as that happened, then we did a lot of marine conservation work aside from training responsible skin divers. So skin diving pala is recreational free diving. So you dive in
Mm.
one breath.
Right, right.
So
I've done a little bit of
mahirap
free
siya.
diving. Yeah, it's really hard. Na-try ko yan eh. I lived in Cebu for about 3 years, and I got into free diving. I mean, the deepest that I was able to get was maybe 15 meters, because the pressurization, there's a different technique when you get deeper. I think it's Frenzel, right? I never learned that technique. So, yun. But I had a lot of friends who did went a lot deeper than 15 meters. So yun, it's really fun.
Yeah, once you get the hang of Frenzel. Yeah, Frenzel is pretty hard because you need to use different parts of your
Right.
ENT. So anyway, um So, after isda, so nag-graduate na kami, ang mga friends ko, tapos pinagpatuloy na ng mga students. And then the alumni were like, "Hey, we should start something that's for profit." So that's when I met my co-founder, Sarah Erasmo. So we were actually drunk. It was a party, like, "Hey, can we pinky swear on something? Can you help me with an idea?" So like, "What's that, man?" Tapos I pinky swear, "Let's do it." And then she's like, "All right, let's do it." And then we were all like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then everyone was like, "What are we gonna do?" And then we just did it, like she said, "Let's make an isda, pero it's for profit. Let's teach people, especially city dwellers, to love the sea through skin diving." Kasi kami, we were only passionate about saving the sea because we got to see it.
Yeah.
You got to experience it.
Yeah.
And then there's like Jaws and all these movies that make people scared of the sea and want all the sharks dead. But they're so important. So we wanted people to sort of have that mind shift
Right.
to experiential learning, to loving the sea.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We taught people how to skin dive. So we did a lot of pool sessions in Green Hills, near Green Hills. It's called Scuba Studio. It's a
Mm.
deep pool, I think 20 feet. Tapos we do a lot of beginner sessions there. I particularly love teaching non-swimmers. Kasi I get a certain high seeing them from like super scared
Mm.
to divers.
Right.
Um, and then Reef Nomads actually, we were doing it since 2015. I was still in the corporate world. I was working for San Carlos Solar Energy. It was already bought by the Ayala company, so it's now under Ayala Energy. Um, at the time, I loved my work at the time, and it was project management. So I knew how to get things done. So I was
Mm.
under the wing of a very good boss, and she sort of molded me into like a catalyst, I suppose. Na parang I actually like I can't say I love the corporate world, pero I love the learning process. Parang it's like action, 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 di ba? Then
Yeah.
they push you. And I like being coached kasi. So my boss trained me na if there's a roadblock, parating may paraan.
Yeah.
Parang don't take no for an answer. If there's no solution, make one. Ganun
Mm.
siya.
Mm.
So I had that mindset from the corporate world, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, di ba?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, absolutely.
Ganun
The
eh.
the corporate world is a good training ground, right? It gives you a framework where you can take baby steps into, taking on more and more as time goes by. The more you grow, the more skills you learn, and you have a safety net in the corporate world, right? Where if you make a mistake, there's it doesn't your world doesn't come crashing around you, unlike if you're like the business owner,
An entrepreneur.
an entrepreneur, right? Like very mistakes can be very costly, but in the corporate world, there are frameworks that are put in place where you can make mistakes and it'll be okay. So it's a good training ground. So I appreciate that part of being in the corporate environment.
Yeah. And diba you get feedback, diba? And
Get
somebody's
feedback,
like,
yeah. Can learn
um,
from.
you're held accountable by somebody else,
That's right.
diba?
Yes. Yes.
So that's what I liked about it. But yun nga, when you start becoming an entrepreneur, nobody else is gonna do that. So parang you don't know if you're doing the right thing, if you're going fast enough, and then when you're slacking off, nobody's gonna go, hey, diba?
Yeah.
It's all you. So
Right.
I feel like the corporate world is so necessary in my journey to becoming an entrepreneur, especially because I was a scientist first, and I needed that training to be self managing or self whatever.
Mm.
And then when I felt sort of ready to quit and pursue Reef Nomads full time, I got cold feet. Like, di ba?
Oh.
Parang security, di ba?
Yeah.
Parang I was supposed to quit on a November in 2015. And I said, no. I'm not sure about this, ganyan. And then in 2015 December, my lola got diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer. Um, and thank God she's still here. And I'm a
That's good.
lola's girl. So I said, if I quit, I get to spend more time with her. At the same time, I can pursue this, try it out. So I said, okay, you know what, F it. And I quit. So 2016, I did Reef Nomads full time. We were four founders. And then one by one, alagas.
Mm.
Parang one by one, kanya-kanyang reasons. People got married or wanted to pursue the art side or whatever. Um, and then I was left alone by 2018.
Mm.
2018. And then sabi ko, wow, so interesting. Parang 3, 4 years ago, we just pinky swore, let's do it. Diba? There's four of us. And it's not even my idea. So parang sabi ko, tutuloy ko ba to? And then, but I did, because I didn't want to go back to corporate, especially when I've already proven I can fend for myself out here. And at one point na match ko na rin kasi yung salary ko sa corporate. So
Nice.
sabi ko, I can do it. I can do this. And then but it is not consistent. But that's part of the journey. So I learned now when you're on a high, you really gotta act like you're not. Like in terms of budgeting, you have to scrimp and prepare parate for a rainy day. Tapos, during rainy days, 'di ba? Parang, oh, thank you past self, 'di ba? Ganun eh.
Yeah.
So many times na, oh, thank you for saving. Kasi
Because you can never
when
predict
you
when
have
the
so
rainy
much
days
pa, parang,
happen. That's why, right?
yes, you cannot. You
Yeah.
cannot. Like, did anyone predict that the pandemic would happen? No. So it's so important to always bootstrap. Tapos, then the pandemic happened, and since Reef Nomads was primarily a tourism company, it had to stop operating. So bawal mag-travel, ganyan. And we were doing a lot of trips. Um, we were doing a lot of trips in Isla Verde, in Palawan, in Anilao, and we had to stop. So I said, you know what? Half of me was like, yes. I get to rest. Because there's no breaks eh. As an entrepreneur, there's no breaks. Unless, it depends siguro on the service or the product. Pero for me, it was so hard. So I kept bootstrapping kasi. So that's one thing I learned in as an entrepreneur. Don't be afraid to delegate. Kasi you're like, will I have enough to pay this guy? And then you realize now when you do delegate it to somebody else, you're gonna be given time to earn more so you can pay that guy, and then both of you can earn more for your business.
You free
So I
up
was
more
like,
time for
it's
yourself.
not so bad pala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you can
So
create
when the
more
pandemic
value.
happened,
Yep.
yeah, I rested for a good 7 months. So in those 7 months, it was so emotional for me in a good way, kasi parang I'm stashing away all the pains, all the learning pains that I've gone through. Kasi I did get diagnosed with depression in the middle of it. Kasi nagsabay-sabay life events. Tapos the entrepreneurial stress was also pretty high. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna grow from this. I'm gonna heal from this. I'm gonna take time for myself. Tapos, yung equipment, ang emotional niya, we were washing it, my brother and I were washing all the gear, the fins, the masks, the snorkels. Tapos, pinowder namin para ma-preserve yung material. Tapos, tinakpan namin ng cloth para lang ma-protect. And I was like, oh my God, parang may closure ako. Tapos, sabi ko, alright, yeah, I'm unemployed. Tapos, pero I am lucky kasi I still stay with my parents. Um, sabi ko, okay, I'm gonna take this time off to, for myself. And then I enrolled in online courses. And then I wanted to pivot eventually. I was like, what can I do? What can I do? And then I went back to my Y, which is the Isla Verde community. So they're a fishing community in Batangas. It's between Batangas and Mindoro. So
Mm,
there's an island there,
right.
pretty big, Verde Island. Tapos, do you know about it?
I've heard of it. I've never been though. Yeah.
Okay, Verde Island, it's famous sa diverse kasi it's situated in the Verde Island Passage, which is the epicenter of marine biodiversity in the world.
In the
So,
world. Wow.
that's where we're gonna in the world. So, ang galing kasi that's where you're going to find the most number of marine life species on the planet,
Wow.
and it's just in our backyard. Um, anyway, so hindi siya gaano ka known to Filipinos, which is sad, diba? But yeah, ironically, despite having the richest marine life in the world, it's home to one of the poorest people in the nation. Um, so they're fisher folk. Tapos, prior to the pandemic, I actually did a lot of trainings for them for ecotourism. They were already running their own tours. And ang sad lang kasi syempre they also had to stop that industry sa pandemic. So I said, okay, what can we do? Usually I look at the community as a partner more than a beneficiary. Kasi when you're coming from a place of um, when you're coming from a place of compassion, you see people as equals, not as lower than you. Kasi I'm already treating them as if they're already mm, they are already like eye to eye as for with everyone, rich or poor.
Right.
They're deserving they're deserving of as much dignity as you and me.
Yeah.
3 meals a day, a roof above their heads, clothing. Um,
Absolutely.
so I always ask them like, ano pwede natin gawin? And then, rather than impose na, eto yung dapat yung gawin. 'Di ba? Which is coming from a place of arrogance. So they told me na, ma, marunong kami magbanig, weaving palm leaves. And I said, uy, ba't di kayo magbenta nun? Sabi, ay mama, apat na lang na matatanda gumagawa dito parang sa dating tradition. Kasi saan kami magbebenta sa Manila? Paano namin idadalhin dun? Sabi ko, di ako. Sabi ko, gawa tayo ng kung ano-ano. Tapos sabi, ano pwede natin gawin? Sabi ko, wait lang. Tapos parang nag-research ako, ano ba yung binibenta ng mga binibili ng mga tao? Tapos I asked people, para, what would you buy na made of banig? Ganyan. Tapos a lot of businesses, since ang dami ng SMEs ngayon, di ba? They're interested in packaging. So we did a lot of tampipi boxes, iba-ibang size, bayong bags, ganyan. And yeah, that's where Reef Picks was born. Reef Picks is the pivot from Reef Nomads. So we started, I think, was it September 2020? Somewhere there.
Mm,
And
okay.
then yeah, super recent lang.
Okay.
So it's super young pa. Um yeah. So do you have any comments so far?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing. It's a lot to unpack. The first thing I want to say is it is unfortunate that not more people are into diving. I personally love diving because it's just a new world that you go into, and nothing like you would see on the surface, right? It's so fascinating. It's just
Yeah.
such an immersive experience, pun intended. Uh, And then so my favorite spot is in Cebu in Mualboal. So I'm excited to see Isla Verde. Is that Isla Verde, right? Kind of reminds me of
Yes,
Jurassic Park. That's the name of the island too. Uh, but yeah, I
I didn't know
mean,
that.
more
Like,
people should be diving because it's definitely something that could take away your stress and just um, open up a new world.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, open up a different world, a new world to you. It's there's so many, like the first time I saw a lionfish, for example, it was just amazing. And then there was a time I saw like the at
Wild fish.
sundown when the tide was down, or when there was no, what do you call that, like the tide, like the reef was exposed, right? Because there was it's low tide.
Low tide.
Yeah, I saw octopus. There was one dangerous octopus that I saw, but it's a good thing that I watched Discovery Channel. I saw a blue ringed octopus, which I almost touched. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
oh crap.
yeah, that could have killed me, right? But it's a good thing that I recognized it. So I just took some pictures. I wanted to hold it, but then I just realized, oh, this is dangerous. So it's just amazing. I don't know how
Buti
to
na lang you
describe it.
saw it.
Huh? What's that?
Buti na lang nakita mo na it's
Oo.
dangerous.
Buti na lang nag-click talaga sa isip ko na, oh, I remember this guy. This guy can kill me. Um, yeah, so that's one. For anyone that's listening to this, I encourage you to take up free diving or skin diving. It's amazing, or even just scuba diving, right? Just explore. Like 70% of our world actually is water, and there's just so much to discover underwater and in nature. Um, and then so when you left the corporate world, so you had cold feet, right? And I feel like when you were telling your story, what really pushed you was the fact that was there a sense of did you come to like a realization of your mortality with what happened to your grandma? Was that something that also played a factor into your decision to just leave the corporate world?
Yeah, there was like a sense of urgency. Like how much time left do I have with her? And then it's also like a realization I should have, whenever I'm with her, I should have been more engaging or, I should check up on her more often. And then when I was able to quit, I made the most out of every every moment I was with her. Um, like as simple as turning on the computer, playing her favorite music, um, asking her questions about anything about her phone or computer. Mga ganun.
Yeah. Kasi ano eh, I've had a few friends, or I've had a few people in the podcast who I now consider my friends, that it took them getting diagnosed with cancer to actually quit their job and pursue what they were most passionate about. um so it's inspiring to see. I mean, it's unfortunate that that's what happened to your grandma, but it's inspiring that you took the leap to get where you are today. What were the so in the first few months of you um jo- quitting your job, what was the feeling like? Were there any regrets? Were there any thoughts in your mind about, let me just go back, or anything like that?
Mm, there was fear. There was a lot of fear. It's like being thrown out into the sea, into the deep sea, and not seeing any islands, and just seeing your 2 feet treading.
Wow, that's
That
scary.
was daunting. Diba?
Uh,
And ano, did I just did I just do that? Parang ganun. Um, I actually spent like a couple of weeks muna in Palawan. I was volunteering for Dugang Conservation. I was diving the wrecks and just sort of figuring things out in my head. Tapos, I was like, okay, I don't know what the hell I just did or what I'm gonna do, but let's just do it. I look for mentors. I think it's so important to. I think that's sort of what you're doing now. You're looking for people who are already starting. Like I saw some of the people that you interviewed, um, are pretty cool people. So I sort of did that as well. I looked for mentors, and I think I met with some of them a few times, and then I just wanted to hear their story, and then so very similar sa'yo. Tapos like, how did you start, and what was in your mind, and how do you do this and that. And then what's so important, I think, is looking for that mentor that's doing something very similar to what you want to do. So for Reef Nomads, the it's a tour group. I looked for a mentor that was doing something sort of similar, but he was doing mountain trips. And he was dealing with local communities in the mountains. I deal with fisher folk. So sabi ko, okay, I'm gonna meet this guy. I'm gonna pick his brain and then ask for guidance. And syempre, it's so important because you sort of dodge some pitfalls that they fell into. So they're gonna warn you of certain things. So fail you're gonna fail a lot, but you fail a bit less when
Yeah.
when you interview people.
uh,
Yun nga, my good friend Kat Trevino said something like very recently. She said something like the path to success is paved with a lot of failures, and that's so true. Like it resonates so much as an entrepreneur. Um, so yeah, that's the first thing I did. Because there was so much fear of uncertainty. You try to hold on to people who have some sort of certainty. So that really helped.
and that's a
Yeah.
big contrast to the corporate world there, right? Where you have built-in mentors and coaches. Your boss is your de facto mentor, and whether you like it or not, they're gonna give you advice. They're gonna give you direction on what to do.
Yes.
So it's kind of easy, and then you go into your own and become an entrepreneur, and no one is telling you what to do, right? You have to find your own direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
What's a good way to approach
Yeah.
someone who you feel is a good fit for you to become your mentor? Do you just cold call them, message them on Facebook, or just, hey, can you be my mentor? Is it that simple? Oh no.
Sorry, I lost you there. What's the best way to to approach somebody na mentor? Um, I they're sort of in my circle na kasi.
Mm,
Um, so they're sort of if not acquaintances, we're already friends. But there was a cold call I did. So madali lang kung friend mo, 'di ba? Para
yeah.
message mo lang, "Hey, can we meet up? I wanna pick your brain." But there was this one mentor, Che Abrigo of Shereza. So she deals with farmers. So farm to table siya. And this is for reef reef nomads pa rin yun. I pursued her. Like messaging her on Instagram, on Facebook. And then I'm such a stalker. I went to her cafe in Maginhawa where she served mga organic food, and yung mga she sells the vegetables of the farmers. So ako, kailan nandito si Che? Ganyan. And then they're like, Ma'am, every Friday, mga gantong oras. Sabi ko, okay, sige. Pakisabi, gusto ko siya i-meet. Paki-text na lang siya na to expect me here, ganyan, ganyan. Kasi she wasn't
Wow.
replying kasi she did everything by herself. Like me. Sabi ko, oh my God, I resonate so much with this person. And I hope she doesn't mind that I want to meet her. So up to today, she drives all the way to Rizal, to the farmers. She collects all of their produce. And while she's doing inventory, she catches up with them. Even though she can get somebody else to do that work, it's so important for her to keep touching base with her why, with the community.
Yeah.
That's why she refuses to delegate this particular task. And that's one of the things I really asked her. Like, why won't you let this part go? It's so um ma-effort siya. Sabi niya, because I stay motivated when I'm connected with my why on a regular basis. And she sees their progress in life. So, sabi ko, okay, I get it. Kasi for me, I'm totally isolated from the island. It's hard to go there unless, magbangka ka, ganyan.
Right.
Sabi ko, okay, okay. And then, kaya pala hanggang ngayon, you're so motivated. Sabi niya, yeah. Tapos sabi ko, okay. Kasi I have a lot of times na, parang things get so hard na parang your mind um, sort of drowns in the problem. And then you forget why you're doing it in the first place. And that's your floater.
Mm.
So, yeah, parang it's so important to sort of plaster it, yung why mo, so that you remember. So I pursued Che, and then we had a 2-hour chat in her cafe. And
Wow.
then
That's
umiyak ako.
impressive.
I, res- I resonated so much with her. And then she's a few years ahead of me. And sabi niya, alam mo, parang I hear myself sa'yo as a younger version of myself. Sabi ko, and I look up so much to you. And then she was like, grabe, nag-chills ako kasi we have the same mentality in terms of working with communities and really wanting to help them, the entrepreneurial journey. And so, kinilig kami parehas, and then we became friends. We've been staying in touch ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love the aggressiveness, the whatever it takes attitude, no? I mean, if you hadn't done all
Yeah.
of that, then that relationship would never have formed, right? So you did what you had to do because you knew, you believed that you needed that connection with Che. So and you made it happen. So that's I think that's for me. I mean, I'm thinking. I don't know if you'd agree, but I think for those people listening to this podcast and are thinking about taking the step into entrepreneurship, one thing to assess in yourself is if you have that attitude where whatever it takes, right? Because if you don't, then it might not be for you, right? Would you agree with that? I don't know, that characteristic that you need to have.
Yeah.
You do it kasi
Yes.
like there would
Kasi
be so many
yung,
doubts sometimes,
mhm.
right? Because of how hard it is. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah. My boss in the corporate world was like, don't take no for an answer. Yun nga, no solution, make one. So parang ako, the time when I was new, I was like, it's so hard. And then eventually, you have to do it. Okay. And then I brought that with me. Kasi I mean, wala kang magagawa eh kung ganun ka lang mag-isip na it's so hard na there's no way, ayaw nito, I tried this, I tried that. Um, but the journey stops when you stop trying. So you have to just keep trying. And you have to, something that people need to accept is that it doesn't get easier. It doesn't, headaches are unlimited. Not literally, yeah, but like the obstacles are nonstop,
There's
and
no
that's
shortage
what
of
you're signing up
problems,
for.
no? Yeah.
Yes, there's always gonna be one after the other, and you just have to live with that. But then syempre, the pros must outweigh the cons in the long term. There will be moments where the cons, the problems will overwhelm you, and then parang it kind of blurs your vision. But you have to always see, okay, why am I doing this again? Why am I doing this again? Oh yeah, for the community.
Your why
So
has to
yeah.
be stronger than the problems that you face, right? So if there's a problem and your why is not as strong as that problem, then the problem will win, you'll end up quitting. But if you feel strongly emotionally like and your why is really maybe consumes you, like your entire being, then it can drive you to overcome any problem, if your why is strong enough. So if you're just doing it for the money, I guess that's when it gets easier to quit when the problems happen, unless you're really into money. But money kasi is a vehicle for
Yeah,
whatever it is, right?
yeah. I mean, well, there are people who just love money, diba?
Yeah.
So if that's your jam, then play it. But for me, it's the community. So I think it's so strong because it's driven me to do really amazing things that I never knew I could do. Kasi yun nga, I do not have a track record of success in school. Like zero academic honors. Never been a class officer. Like I was even like in grade school, I was like, kahit man lang maging PRO ako, I'd be so happy. But no. in, in college, when I founded ISDA, it's like, sabi ko, oh, I want this org. And then my co-founders were like, Eddie, you're president because it's your idea and you want it so much. I was like, what? I have no experience. Like, I'm not even like academically like amazing. And they said, no, but I know we'll guide you. We believe in you. And then when people believe in you, I think that makes you, para silang fertilizer mo if you're the plant.
Yeah.
Um, I'm sorry.
It's
Ang weird
okay.
ko mag-isip. Pero,
I love it. Don't worry.
yes, thank you. Like, it boosted me so much kasi when people believe in you so much, you start believing in yourself. So, it's like a positive budol.
Uh-uh.
And
Uh-uh.
then you're like, wow,
Positive budal.
I can do this.
Uh,
I'm I'm doing it. And then, wow, parang they said I'm great, maybe I am. So, parang next thing you know, parang from a really jittery public speaker na, as in, I had stage fright. I've done, I think, already 200 talks in my life.
wow.
And, yes, and I already get paid for it. So, yeah,
That's amazing.
things get so much better. You become like the best person you can be when you surround yourself with the right people who really are there to support you from day one, even though you're not great yet.
Hmm. And these are people
Yes.
that you've known for a long time, or what if there's someone that's listening and they don't have people like that? What advice would you give them?
There are, you'd be surprised. There are people who you just meet along the way in life, who are willing to support. So, for example, I met Mots Venturina. So she's the founder of Conservationist. And then she quit her job. She's a breadwinner, and she wants to pursue she wants to pursue medicine. She's at 26 years old,
Hmm.
and sobrang risk kasi where is she gonna get the money to sustain herself, to pay for med school in Lasal, and for the
Wow.
next how many years? I only met her once. She's just an acquaintance. Parang I was consulted for a fundraising once, like literally an hour or less. Tapos I heard that she quit this pandemic to pursue medicine. I was like, man, this girl's crazy. Tapos I was following her story, her posts. Sabi ko, man, I have this tug to reach out to this person because I believe in what she's doing and I believe in her. So I said, you wanna jump in a call? Parang I feel like I wanna help.
Out of nowhere. Out of
And
nowhere.
out of nowhere, out of
Oh.
nowhere, I was inspired because I know I'm pretty good at fundraising. And she really needed help in fundraising. So she's already completed her first year in med. Um, and we've been closely working together so that she gets her funding.
So I
Yeah,
guess
and
I
she
guess
said na,
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead. I'll just say that later. Yeah, I just have
Sige.
to. Yeah.
She said na, grabe, hindi kita ka-close. Parang we've only met once. And then we're now really good friends. Like, she calls me up when she's crying already kasi ang hirap ng test niya or whatever. Hindi daw niya mapukpok yung mga terms sa mind niya. And then we're there for each other, you know? Like, I also confide in her when I have problems, and it's all because of the internet.
Yeah.
I think you just really need to find your tribe, and they're, you never know where they are.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, what I was gonna say is perfectly aligned to that. I was gonna say that if you're that person where you don't feel like anyone is supporting you at the moment, like you know what you said, like the fertilizer to drive you and to keep you in, going forward. I guess you just, based on what you said, and it makes perfect sense to me, you just have to put yourself out there. Whatever it is you're trying to do, just um, tell the world, right? And whoever believes in what you believe in will find you, or you'll find them. Like it will attract the same people who are, and you'll get the support that you need. Kind of like what happened with your friend. Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of have to bare your soul. Um,
Right.
so not knowing everything, but like she was vulnerable enough to tell the world that she was having a problem, supporting herself and putting herself to med school. And if she didn't tell the world that, I wouldn't have known that she needed help, and I wouldn't have reached out and helped her out. So I think trying to find your tribe, especially this pandemic, also means that you sort of have to be a bit vulnerable online. And yeah, just be honest. Because I mean, everybody is having a hard time. And there are so few people who reveal that. And it's a barrier for authentic connections. So yeah, I really appreciate it when people are being genuine online. And when I see that, and when other people see authenticity online, mas nakaka-gravitate yon to that person, and people will most likely want to support people who they resonate with.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And especially in this day and age where like imagine 20 years ago with no internet, right? Even there's nowhere to put your passion or your cause on display and be authentic. But now, if you put yourself online, then someone will find you, someone who shares the same passion, shares the same values will find you, and you can just build a community around that, kind of like Clubhouse. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and kind of like this podcast. I really appreciate you putting yourself out here as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That means a lot. So let's talk a little bit about the community that you're supporting. So, what's the progress there? Could you give us a short progress report? So I know you started September 2020, based on what you shared. Has it grown the way you envisioned it to grow, or are there current roadblocks that you're still overcoming? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. All right. So we actually started on the right foot kasi September, it's already Christmas. So
Yeah.
people are like,
Burr
what can I
months
buy?
na.
Ganyan.
Yeah.
Yes. So it was like the perfect time because it was just right after Ghost Month. So I was like, all right, this is going pretty good. And people love it when they know that they're supporting a good cause. And it's a social enterprise, which sets it apart from your typical money making machines. Because um, which also makes it a bit hard because there's a community organizing aspect to it. You're not just making money for yourself. You also need to make sure that your community, your labor force is making money. So we started with less than per household. The stat was less than 5,000 pesos per household per month income. Um, and it's so small, right? For
Yeah.
a family of kahit sabihin natin lima sila, um,
I don't think
it's so
it's enough.
small.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's try to double this. And then we started getting a lot of banig orders, specifically for mga tampipi boxes and bayongs. And it was great because we were doing a lot of bulk orders for small businesses and mga, your titos and titas who want pretty packaging for their
Yeah.
gifts. And then after Christmas, so we at the time the women were raking in like for additional 4,000 pesos per month per woman, which is a big deal for the island because it's still a very patriarchal setup where the women, nearly all the women don't have income. So it really helped them out. Then after Christmas, that's when the struggle began. Syempre, less people want to buy stuff. Um, Especially yung amin kasi is mas per packaging for perfect for Christmas. So luckily we also sold other items, which sort of is a hit naman. It's called sea glass. So I'm gonna show one to you.
Ooh.
So
Is that a shell or
yeah,
a
it's
scale?
it's weathered broken glass.
Oh.
So there's so many different colors. There's blue, there's red, there's yellow, like all the colors you can think of. Um, Meron. So that's sea glass.
It's nice.
So what happened was I came across this person because of a friend, Rick Gomez, who's a marine biologist. He was like, "Hey, do you only want to support coastal communities, or do you also welcome local artisans?" Because my friend, who's also a marine scientist, she makes jewelry, sea glass jewelry, and I was like, "Okay, can you introduce me to this person?" So her name is Lala Kalye, and then we met up. We She came over, and then sabi ko, okay, I'll just ask my community to gather sea glass. Um, Kasi ang daming sea glass sa Isla Verde. Isipin mo, it's in the middle of a passage. So waste from all over the world ends up there. Tapos, there's so much diversity. Oh my God, ang dami ko palang sea glass dito. Yeah, so pink, blue, these are the common ones. And then you have the oranges, the yellows. And yung pinakamabenta yung mga blues.
Nice.
Uh,
It's pretty.
yeah,
They're
so
pretty. And do you have to
super diverse.
do anything to them, or they come like that when you gather them?
They come like this, but you have to sort them out.
Uh,
So there are rejects. So if it's too early, it's too sharp. You want the ones that are sort of
Smooth.
more weathered,
Uh,
mas bugbog,
uh,
smooth, yeah, by the wave. So it usually takes several years, decades. I do believe there are sea glasses that are centuries old because yung black sea glass, so Lala, my friend who makes these, she said, "Hey, did you know that the black sea glass were only produced in the 1800s?" And I'm like,
wow.
"What? We sold it for a song." We didn't know the value. And yeah, so many cool stuff about seagulls that haven't been discovered yet. But since it's the center of marine biodiversity, we also think it's also the center of biodiversity of sea glass. Because
Yes,
like
probably.
if you go to other beaches, you won't see this many colors. And then people went crazy over these. So these are really helping out the community as well. And I also sell eco-friendly alternatives. Um,
Is there
Kasi
a
yun nga,
sea
you don't want to
glass
put all your
industry
in one
in the
basket,
world, like a
right?
sea glass market worldwide, or is it just new that you're starting?
Yes, yes. There are puro SMEs nga eh. That's so interesting. Puro mga small makers around the
Mm.
world. And then you're gonna see them on Instagram. Even if you Google sea glass jewelry, you're gonna see puro taga ibang bansa. But locally, onti lang talaga. Super onti. So yeah, it's pretty It's pretty cool. It has such great potential. Because we usually get sold out. Because every piece is unique. You're never gonna get the same one, the same piece.
And if it takes years to, develop one, then there's a scarcity element to it too. It could be huge, right? Could be a new market that's just starting out. No? Wow, interesting.
Yes,
I'll definitely research more on
definitely.
that. Yeah. And then black, how much does
Yeah.
that cost? The black's
Um,
1800s, no? Maybe you can even carbon date it, no? They have devices that you can date rocks, right? That you can use to date rocks, and maybe that could also
I'll ask my
r-
friend. I'll ask my friend that ano, who's an archaeologist. Yeah. It's
yeah,
so
and then
cool,
you can
diba?
market it
Ayun.
that way, right? Like, cause if you try, you can't find it. It's very hard to find. And then if you have it, then you can date it to, let's say, 1800s, right? Pre ano pa yun?
Definitely.
Pre Philippines. It's not. We're not even Philippines just yet. We haven't even been discovered, diba? And then that would be an interesting
Meron na, yeah.
way to market that stuff, right? That's cool. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
definitely. Thank you. Ayun. So you're gonna find in Isa Verde, if you see the locals picking up stuff from the sand, they're probably picking up sea glass. I pay them per piece eh. Um
Oh.
yeah, pay them per piece. And depending on the color, kasi meron silang rarity. So the super rare ones are like the warmer ones, so red, orange, yellow, pink, violet, black, gray. The very common ones are greens, whites, and yung parang itsura ng pale pilsen.
Ah, mukhang beer or root beer colored.
Yes,
Yeah,
or red horse.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for those that are starting out and find themselves in a position that they need to pivot, just like you did, but they have no ideas. How did you come up with the idea for the sea glass? Like, how do you, and what advice would you give those people?
They need to pivot because of circumstance, no?
Yeah.
Um, I would say you need to look for a gap. And so I just got really lucky with this one because I didn't know about it. And I was like, hey, it's so pretty. I'd buy one. So we tested it out. So I think it's so important to test it out in small batches. Like if you have an idea, don't go like, oh, I'm gonna invest this chunk of my money to produce this thing. I don't know the how the
Market.
market's gonna receive
Yeah.
it yet. Diba? So, yun nga, start lean. I didn't I didn't read that book, yung Lean Startup, but it makes sense, diba?
Ah,
Parang,
yes.
why are you gonna invest so much money in something you're not sure about? So you have to make sure na parang, you ask around, you do your research, and then, yeah, yung sa Isla Verde, when we started the winning thing from nothing, it's really a collaboration between me and the community. Like it wasn't an imposed thing. I made sure that they wanted it as much as I did. And I think that's key if you're running a social enterprise, that the community wants this thing as much as you do, so that your cooperation with them is solid. Because if you're a bit prescriptive, it's not gonna work out. Tapos in terms of pivoting, there are always opportunities where there's a lack. So um yeah, I don't know where I don't know how to continue it. But yes, basta my problem and you want to solve it, and then there's a potential for the market and they're ready for this product. If it makes sense to sell it, then
It almost
go
seems
try it
like
out.
it's harder to pivot than it is to start a new business, because you're already invested, you have assets, and suddenly all of those assets that are built for something very specific have to be used for something else, but you don't have anything planned that to pivot to. as opposed to starting from scratch, ba? You know what I mean? Like, because if you're starting from
That's
scratch, you
so
haven't
true.
bought anything yet, right? So then, but when you have to pivot, you have all these stuff. Maybe you have inventory, you have liabilities and all that you have to take care of, and then move the business in a different direction. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Kasi, yeah, kasi, for example, I have so much dive gear here. And I was like, what am I
Ayun,
gonna do with
yan,
this?
right? Uh,
hmm. Uh, so, honestly, I don't know. Like, a couple of people bought some of my gear, you know? Like, I didn't volunteer that. They're like, hey, you have gear we could buy? I was like, all right. I mean, what am I gonna do with this? But I'm also sort of I'm sort of cooking up an idea while the pandemic is here. Because the only constant thing is change. For sure, there will be an end to this. We don't know when, but if that happens, I'm already cooking up something for the gear. Um, in case they're still good by the time. And then, yeah, you have to adapt to what didn't work out. So if something's not working out, which is what happened with Reef Nomads, biglang ang dami naming competition, who were doing the same thing. And I was like, this isn't working out because the market's being spread out. And marketing wasn't my strong suit at the time. So we were sort of being overtaken by several groups. I was like, this is not working out. So from there, I crafted na my plan. It's not working out. So what can work out? What do people want? So you always have to ask yourself, what do people want? And what do they need it? So and are they ready to buy it? So those are the questions that really help me out in pivoting.
and I think that's one of the hardest things to do, at least for me, in my own research. I'm not yet an entrepreneur, but I'm definitely going to be one in the next couple of years for sure. That's definitely the timeline that I set for myself, and I'll make sure it happens. But um, what's the best way to kind of test the market when you have a new product idea, or you have a new idea for your company that you want to check if it's viable? Like, what I mean, there's companies that offer market research solutions that you have to pay, but if you're bootstrapping, what other alternatives do you have that you could recommend?
Um, it definitely helps to talk to your network who could give sound opinions. Like um, it's less about do you want to buy this? It's more about what do you need,
Mm,
sort of thing.
okay.
How much would you buy it for? How much would you pay for that? So you have to always marketing is a lot about putting yourself in the shoes of your customers. What do you call it? Empathy.
Mm,
You have to
yeah.
have empathy because you want that emotional connection with your buyers. If you notice, shopping is actually an emotional experience. It's not an intellectual experience. They're not gonna buy because it makes sense, even if it's ridiculously priced and it's just like I don't know, a bag tag, but it's this brand, they're definitely
Yeah.
gonna buy it. It doesn't make sense, but it gives them a feeling. So it's so important to connect with them in a feeling way. And the only way for you to do that is to get in their heads and know what tickles them.
Got it. Got it. It's kind of like which puts people who invent things in a whole different light, if you know what I mean. Like, it's very I mean, it's just simply amazing what inventors can do, right? Like, for example, Steve Jobs. I know someone told me that Steve Jobs once said that like, people were questioning why he was making an iPhone, right? Um, And I think his answer was, and I'm just paraphrasing here, is you don't know like you don't know if you're gonna like it or not because I haven't invented it yet. You know what I mean? You don't like he doesn't really it's kind of counterintuitive in a way to traditional ways of doing things, right? Where he's basically saying that the market doesn't know what it wants because he hasn't invented it yet, right? So that's kind of a little bit weird in a way, but he was right. That's the validating factor, right? He was right. There was no iPhone before, and when he made it, everyone loved it, and so and then the AirPods, right? I don't know if you have AirPods. Like everyone laughed at the AirPod product when it came out because we're used to having wires for our headphones connected to our phone, right? And then the AirPods came out and they were a hit. I love the AirPods, and everyone else followed the same thing. So I guess where I'm going is like sometimes would you say that I don't know where I'm going with this actually. I guess my point was like you would need
It's
to know the
okay.
market, but there are instances where the market may not know what's best for them, and in that sense, do you push forward or do you kind of play it safe, or I don't know what the right term is for that. What do you think?
It depends on kasi what strikes your fancy. It's not always just about the market. Syempre, it's something that you're willing to commit to. Do you really believe in it? Are you passionate about it? And do you see yourself growing in that space? Kasi if there's a niche for every service and product, diba?
Mm-mm.
So you have to find service or product that you're willing to to go forward with for the long run. So you start with that and then you modify it according to how you think the market's going to receive it. You ask around, um you bootstrap by
You
testing it out
prototype,
for like a
no?
small batch first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then see how it performs, and then you work your way up.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. And then as you continue to see more success, you just keep building on that and building on that until it's this hopefully $1 billion company or billion peso kahit paano. So
You
so
know, mind you, I don't do ano.
what's
Shit.
that?
I don't plan to be rich. I I just want to see my community make it out of poverty because earning less than 5,000 pesos per month per household is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and it's inhumane. And once I see them hit at least 10,000 per household per month, I will be the happiest person on earth. Like I want that's my goal. They hit at least 10,000 per household per month, sustained.
Yeah.
So I don't care how big or small my business will be back at by that time. But that's what matters to me.
Yeah. And that's
So
because it
success is relative.
yeah, because it ties into your why, right? Your why determines what
Yeah.
success will look like for you. And you're right, it's relative. Some CEOs even give away their entire salaries. Like I don't know if you've heard of the CEO in Seattle who um, gave away his salary so that everyone in his company could have the same salary. So it's something like 70K per person. That's the minimum wage. And the CEO, all the way until the CEO, was earning the same amount. And everyone called him crazy. People called him a socialist. And like fast forward to the present day, and his company's thriving. Like it's really grown more than 2 or 3 times its size from when that started. So money is not the end goal, but money can really empower you to do things that you truly believe in, right? And I love your passion, by the way. I mean, it's not just about charity, it's more about empowerment, the way it's, at least personally, the way I see it, right? You're empowering the people in this community to fend for themselves, to create a sustained livelihood for their families and their, the future generations, hopefully. So if you're successful, then their kids will be good, their kids will earn more, their kids will have better lives. And I hope you do become successful. And
Thank
um,
you.
yeah, I just have two questions left. I know it's about an hour now or so. These are questions that I ask normally at the end of the podcast, and I got these questions from Tim Ferriss. He's one of the people that I follow as far as podcasting is concerned. And he wrote the book, The 4 Hour Work Week. I'm not sure if you've read that book yet. You
I've
have?
heard about it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
we talked about that on the clubhouse thing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good book. And anyway, he wrote another book called Tribe of Mentors, and it's not really a book where he wrote it. He just had some questions that he sent out via email to all of these successful people, all of the famous people. So it's a kind of a compilation of the answers that these people gave to Tim when he sent it out. So it's really inspiring. So if you're looking for a book that you don't have to read from cover to cover, more like a reference where if you're looking for inspiration, you can just open the book, like find someone that you kind of relate to, or you look up to, and then you can see what his answers were and kind of put you in that mindset. So anyway, there are two questions from the list of questions that he had that I wanted to ask you. So I have the first one is, how has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? In other words, do you have a favorite failure of yours? Favorite failure in
Uh,
quotes.
a favorite failure? I think reef nomads.
Wow.
Reef nomads was a failure, I would say.
Mm,
Um, and it set me up for um, the better version of it right now, which is reef picks. Because for one, I already had the bravery of delegating. So that's something that I didn't do so much in Reef Nomads. There were more people at the time. I still had difficulty um, kasi mahiyain ako when it comes to delegating. But I learned to overcome that when I saw the consequences in Reef Nomads or in Reef Picks now. I was already able to get two people to help me out, and then yeah, all the decisions I made in Reef Nomads that led to its failure, I think, is what I'm currently applying now in Reef Picks. And yeah, I hope it keeps going better than it did before.
yeah, me too. I think it will with you at the helm, right? And I think it's all part of the self improvement process. You always get better as you go along, especially when you go through failure. And then I think just some thoughts on delegating, because I had to learn that too as I grew up in the corporate world. I started in the BPO industry as an agent, so I was taking calls. And then I became a team leader and I was handling 10 people. And then I started learning delegation when I became a manager, because now I had like 200 people in my cluster, and I didn't really have the capacity to coach each one individually. And then I became a senior manager. I had 300. Now I have about a lot. I have a lot of people. And so in order to get things
Galing.
done, you have to delegate. And so delegation is kind of like the guy with the wand in an orchestra. I'm not sure what the right term for that guy is, but he doesn't really he doesn't really
Conduct. What's
Conductor,
conductor?
yes. There
Anyway,
you
yeah.
go. Yeah, he's a conductor, right? To
Okay.
keep everyone, each
Yeah.
person has their own jobs, and if everyone does their job correctly, then you play great music, right? But the conductor's needed to make sure that everything's running smoothly and that everyone is in the right, going in the same direction. So there's that. Yeah. What was it? What was the other thing I was going to say about delegation? Uh, anyway, I'll just go to the second question. I forgot my my thought. The second
Go
question
lang.
is in the last 5 years, and this might actually be your answer to this might be aligned to what your answer was in the first question. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Um, putting yourself first. Because I'm a natural giver. Like I always put everyone else first, and I I used to think that as long as I keep doing that, I'll be happy because it does give me joy helping people out. But when you're already so exhausted and you still keep doing that, put puro energy out, you're gonna burn out, and then you're gonna build resentment. So resentment is an emotion that springs out of situations where you overextend yourself. So I think creating that boundary within myself na am I already burning out? How's my energy level doing right now? Is it six and below? Because if it is, I need to stop what I'm doing right now. That's getting my energy, and I have to refill so that I can keep on giving. And this is something that's changed the way I operate, and it has improved my life because it's more sustainable, diba? As long as you're keeping yourself full of love and energy, you keep refilling regularly, you're gonna be able to do the same for others for the long term.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree with that 100%. In fact, I just saw a video on TikTok the other day about so Jeff Bezos. He was the guy in the video. So Jeff Bezos owns Amazon, one of the richest people in the world, right? And he was saying that he puts a premium, or he prioritizes getting 8 hours of sleep every day because he sees his job as the CEO, as a leader. His job is to make one or two quality decisions per day. So if he doesn't, put himself in a position where he's at his best and he's overstretching himself, then it would compromise those decisions that he has to make, and it would impact so many lives across his organization. Um,
That's so
yeah,
true. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's it, Jella. Again, thank you so much for all the time that you've given me, everything that you've shared, all your experiences. I know for a fact that I'm inspired, and I'm sure everyone else that listens to this video or watches this video will be inspired as well. How can we support Reef Picks and all of your initiatives? So for me personally, I want to get involved as much as I can, maybe when I get back to the Philippines. But at the same time, if anyone's listening to this, how can we support you? How can we help the community that you're supporting and drive more business towards that?
Um, well, check us out on Reef Picks at Reef Picks on Instagram. We're more active there than we are on Facebook. Please pray for us that we'll have a website soon. Somebody's helping me out, and yeah, we're hoping that it opens soon. But for now, that's it. we're still new, so yeah.
Okay, sounds
Check
good.
us out
We're
if you learn anything. Then we'd be so happy if you make a purchase. If you want us to customize anything, since we're so new to developing products in banig or palm leaves, we'd be happy to customize anything for you, like literally anything. Just send us a photo and then the measurements, and we'll try it out.
Awesome, awesome. You know what you're doing reminds me of Grameen Bank. Have you heard of that bank? The
Mm,
um It's I'll send it to you offline, but it's basically let me quickly search it. There's a book that I read. I forgot the title. Grameen.
I'm taking notes too. Like,
Yeah,
gonna search the
banker
stuff that you
banker to the
said.
poor. Banker to the poor is the name of the book. So I read it a few months ago. I think at the start of the year, and it's just an amazing book. And I would recommend this book to you more than the 4 hour work week because it aligns to what you're trying to do.
Okay.
So it was a bank that started in I think it was Bangladesh or something like that. And then it grew and it's now a worldwide bank and it targets empowering the communities that are super desolate, super, need are in need of help. So it's I think you'll find a lot of alignment with yourself and the person who wrote this book. So I recommend that book.
Cool. I'm excited. Thank you for the recommendation.
Awesome. So again, thank you, Jella. I think that's the end of our show. I appreciate it, and I wish you the best and more power to you and Reef Picks.
Thank you so much.